Hello everyone and welcome on back to the channel. We are going and venturing off into the wilderness with the Ranger, specifically the Untamed today, as Untamed did receive quite a few updates in this balance patch, all kind of focused at increasing their bruisery potential, their self-sustain, adding elements of barrier, increasing their effectiveness against defiant foes, and just kind of bolstering out their kit. No major reworks in terms of additions to their profession mechanic, no major reworks of any particular traits that would change the gameplay flow or the structure of how you approach the Untamed. Just a plethora of very nice buffs and enhancements to this more bruisery elite specialization that is the Untamed. So let's head on over to the gear, my utilities, and all of the traits as we do normally. For this build, I'm currently running with Commanders? Oh my god, I literally just, yes, Commander's gear. I'm running with Commander's gear, which is power, precision, extra toughness for some sustain and concentration for my self boons, which we'll get into in the traits. And as for my rune, I'm taking Rune of the Ogre to be that a Beastmaster kind of. And I'm using a hammer and my longbow. As for my accessories, I'm running with dragon stats. I do have some berserker rings just to increase my damage just a little bit. Moving on over to the specializations, I'm running with marksmanship, beast mastery, and the Untamed. For marksmanship, I'm taking hunter's gaze, moment of clarity, because we are going to be doing plenty of interrupts, and predator's onslaught, dealing increased strike damage to disabled, defiant, or movement impaired foes. For beast mastery, I've decided to go with an F2 meta, so go for the eyes. I mean, actually, I should probably take potent ally if I'm being honest. Grant each other might when we critically strike. Potent ally or go for the eyes. If you want more sustain and survivability, blind is nice to have, but it is on a 12-second cooldown. Wilting strike I'm taking because there's no real point in taking natural healing, and I could take two-handed training, but this just applies to the greatsword and the spear. You do gain fury when you disable a foe, which is nice. And then as for my Grandmaster, I'm taking Beastly Warden to gain a little bit of a taunt. This is not great, however, it does play into some of the interrupting playstyles with Moment of Clarity and also Predator's Onslaught, so I'm kind of just like mixing those two in together. And then as for the elite specialization of the Untamed, I'm taking the Nature's Shield to increase self-sustain and cantrips. Grant barrier to you and your pet whenever you cast a cantrip. This would be really nice if like half of its barrier was also granted to allies around you, as this is a trait that you take, and then you look at Weaver and it's just like automatically sharing to allies. This is a little weird. We did get a change to debilitating blows where it's now actually applying poison and slow, which in competitive poison is actually really good for that reduced healing effectiveness. But in PvE, I kind of preferred the vulnerability. I don't know. And then I'm also taking enhancing impact to increase my quickness and stability. This is where some of that concentration comes in, just to kind of like bolster up some of the duration. It's not going to be a whole extra amount, but it is useful. You could take Corrupting Vines if you wanted to, but in PvE, Enhancing Impact is really the way to go. And then for open world, I'm taking Ferocious Symbiosis, which was also buffed to increase your damage now by 4%. They did buff up Restorative Strikes, but all they did was grant protection to this, so when you use your F5, you'll get a little bit of protection. If you have concentration, it'll buff it up a little bit more, but this is still... It's nice. It's nice, and the protection definitely helps. Fervent Force, I'm imagining, is going to be a reduction of cooldown to only Untamed abilities, because this is a very strong Grandmaster, and I kind of expect that to just affect Untamed abilities. I'm taking Perilous Gift, which was nerfed in a very strange way. You're no longer going to be taking damage while you have this effect up. This used to act in a way where you would still take damage, but you couldn't die. So you could get really strong heals off of this. You'll basically go from like 1 health all the way up to like half health. So it's a huge heal, but now you have to use it wherever your health is at. So you have to have better timing. You can still, you know, go a bit low, but you're no longer going to be able to really get down to 1% or 1 health anymore, which is a little sad because I kind of like the interaction. and Unnatural Traversal, getting there, Protect Me for extra barrier, Exploding Spores for nice damage and knockdown, and of course Force Fortification. So we're going to use Force Fortification, teleport into here, and just start kind of like doing damage. On top of all of the other additions to the traits, we did receive more bruisery elements to your Unleashed when your pet is unleashed and you yourself are a little bit more tanky. Now, Wild Swing will hit enemies and you'll gain barrier for each enemy that you successfully strike, which is going to be really nice. Also for Overbearing Smash, if you are able to interrupt an enemy, you will gain barrier. So they added a little bit more straight up defense to the hammer when you are in your defense mode, which just feels really lovely and I really enjoy that. I think most bruisery elite specializations should get ample access to barrier, at least self-barrier, and then maybe like 50% barrier sharing to allies to promote that tanky bruisery playstyle. Untamed it's feeling better. I think each update that Untamed receives, it gets better and better. Of course, Force Fortification is such an incredibly strong ability. It reduces all of your damage by 50%. It gives you a plethora of supportive boons, and it's just absolutely lovely. I think if I were to recommend anything to Untamed, anything at all, and this would be a really big ask and just such a kind update, is actually for Force Fortification to grant the buff to allies around you for like 5 seconds. Maybe you gain Force Fortification for 10 seconds, you share it out to allies in a 600 radius around you for 5 seconds. Chalice has your group sharing minus 50% damage. I think it'd be nice to see at least one other ability kind of play around with that idea, and I think Force Fortification could entertain that. And then maybe even some of the boons could be replaced in favor of that group support and group damage reduction. But utilizing the hammer, of course we have your Unleashed mode where you yourself become unleashed and you are able to deal increased damage. Of course, when foes are knocked down, you'll deal extra damage with all of your traits, and then even doing more damage on your hammer. So you're kind of doubling up with your increased damage to disabled or defiant foes. You're getting that increased damage to Predator's Onslaught, and of course, Moment of Clarity when you are successfully disabling a foe. I feel like Untamed, Power Untamed, might do even more damage to foes who are defiant in raids and strike missions, and also just like to foes that are knocked down. When you are self-unleashed for your hammer, the one thing about the hammer, I will say, is that your final auto attack, Heavy Smash, doesn't feel too special, if that makes sense. I think if this dealt increased damage, like 5% increased damage to defiant or disabled foes, that would just kind of push. I'm always worried about it, especially for competitive game modes. Dealing increased damage to crowd-controlled players is always a bit of a sketchy thing. Maybe if your final attack on Heavy Smash applied to vulnerability for 5 seconds or something, just so that you can kind of get a little bit more damage out, even if you are playing in your pet unleashed form where you yourself are taking reduced damage, but you still want to gain a little bit more damage. I think Heavy Smash needs to be a little bit more rewarding, but other than that, I really think the hammer is a very fun weapon. It's probably one of the more entertaining and fun hammers that Guild Wars 2 has created. I think Catalyst also sits in that position. Yeah, I'm really enjoying Untamed quite a lot. The last little thing Untamed really needs is a little bit more group utility, maybe in the form of damage reduction via barriers or certain buffs. But other than that, I think Untamed is a really good open world pick. It's very simple, and depending on the build that you have, I'm taking Rune of the Ogre, so I get an extra pet with me basically throughout my entire fighting experience in open world and in raids and strike missions. Because also for my pets, I never mentioned I'm taking a tiger and also my baby siege turtle to increase projectile destruction. Of course, the siege turtle, if you're taking your Untamed, you get 2 moments of destroying projectiles on your unleashed F3 ability, and then the actual F2 ability on the siege turtle. The one thing about the siege turtle is that it's like, oh wait, is that a stationary field or did it just end? I don't know. You gotta You gotta be careful because it doesn't really move all that much. It's a ranged pet, which is really cool. We don't have a lot of ranged pets in Guild Wars 2, so I would love to see more of those. Yeah, you can snap at it, so you're able to move it every 12 seconds or so. Leap and knock nearby foes back. Does this also move? It does say leap. Yes, everyone, this has been the Untamed. It's a very fun elite specialization. I would say very beginner friendly. It is very tanky now with extra barrier applications. Your certain traits that you can take increase your access to stability, to quickness, depending on the mode that you're in. You have options of healing off of your attacks if you want to take restorative strength, or if you want to go full DPS and, you know, bolster up your damage in open world, you're able to. I think Untamed feels really good now. The one thing I still would love to see is attention to the profession mechanic and further expanding that. The profession mechanic still, it feels like it felt in the beta, where it's just not really fully formed, in my opinion. But despite that, they've added many elements and buffed many elements surrounding the Untamed aside from its profession mechanic, and this update is carrying that sentiment, carrying that torch. So big wins for the Untamed, I would say. Thank you for coming. Thank you so very much for coming on by. Comment down below your thoughts about the Untamed and the Ranger. How are you enjoying this Canthan Ranger? And if you'd like to support the channel, head on over to Patreon, and where you get early access to all of my videos. Subscribe, like, and comment, and share if you like. It really helps me out. And if you want to catch me over on Twitch, I stream there every day of the week playing Guild Wars 2 and various other games, and I hope to catch you there as well. Thank you all so much, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye, everyone! Mwah.